Hi guys, I'm Ryan Wilmot, and today I wanted to talk about cello vibrato and the things that I did to move the needle of progress in the right direction. If you're watching this video, chances are you have the same pain point that I had. You want to get better at vibrato. Maybe you're a beginning student, or maybe you're a student that's been playing for a while and you just want to know some extra tips or tricks. These are the things that helped me, because for the longest time I felt like I just did not understand how to improve vibrato. Right, so the first thing that helped me move the needle of progress in the right direction had to do with my mindset. Right, if we think about vibrato, a lot of times it evokes an emotional appeal. Right, there's something about it that makes us reminded, like, oh, that sounds so beautiful, that sounds so organic, that sounds so warm, that just touched me in some kind of emotional way. Now we can take the emotion right later on, but right now we need to focus on the mechanical, and that's the mindset that we need to think about, is that this is something mechanical. Just like you're fixing an engine in a car, it requires mechanical skill to do that, right? It's not organic the way it feels, but we need to keep that in mind, because a lot of times for vibrato, depending on where we're at on the instrument, depending on when we're playing, right, we're gonna have to make adjustments. We're gonna have to physically do something differently. So the idea of mechanics kind of also blends itself well to the idea of vibrato itself. So if you imagine my elbow is going to be my finger, and I'm going to place it on like an A, right? So I just planted my finger on an A. Now when I play an A by itself, it hums out that note A. But then if I want to put vibrato to it, what I'm going to do is move my finger back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. Now I kind of think this is a good way to illustrate this point, because if you imagine your wrist on the cello, your wrist can only go so far this way, right? We're gonna pick up the cello and I'll show you, that way it makes more sense. If I wanted to play past a note, we can't really see it that well, but here it's easier for me to go backwards and then forward to like the middle of my note or the middle of my elbow, right? So if I go back and then forward, it's easy for me to do that. But now if I take my arm and I try to push it this way, it takes a little bit more energy. So even to vibrato, it's awkward if we want to go past that fundamental note, and we're going to bring it back and forth. So that idea kind of helps us to understand the limits of our vibrato, or at least for me, how far I would actually push my vibrato. A lot of times you're going to be moving more backwards than you're going to be moving past your fundamental note. So my A is here. I'm going to do some wide vibrato. Wide just has to do with the width of your vibrato, or the sound, how wide those waves sound whenever you play them. But so I'm going to go woo, you, woo, 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 woo. You know, you don't want your vibrato to really sound like that, but that's wide vibrato. Now, what if I wanted my vibrato to be narrow and slow? Way, wee, 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 wee. Right? And what if I wanted it to be wide and fast? Wee, 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 wee. And then if I wanted it to be narrow and fast, wait, right? So when we think about that, we bring that to our instrument. It sort of makes sense, like why we practice the mechanical aspect of moving our wrist up and down on the instrument. So let me do that wide vibrato we were talking about before. I'm going to use actually F on the G string to illustrate that. Wide. Right, wide and slow. Now I'm going to do narrow and slow. Now I'm going to do wide and fast. And then I'm going to do narrow and fast. Right, so depending on how we move our actual wrist up and down, and also of course oscillating our finger on the string, is going to determine how our vibrato is going to sound. I think a lot of us like that kind of balance between the two, but depending on the context is going to change how you're going to play that. But I want to talk about context later. For now, we're still focusing on the mechanical aspects. So we talked about how when you plant your finger on the note and then you move it back and forth, that creates the phenomenon known as vibrato. We hear it, and in context with music, it sounds great. But one more thing about mechanics that we need to think about is, one more thing, two more things actually. Another thing we have to focus on is where we engage our arm, our forearm, our wrist, our back, our biceps, our triceps. All that stuff is moving around whenever we're playing. And we need to think about that whenever we approach vibrato, because if you think about, even without vibrato in mind, if you played an A string, let's play the A string without engaging our shoulder, or engaging our back or anything. We're just playing and we're only going to be using our elbow. Now that's super awkward. Yeah, you can visually see it on the screen that that's awkward. But we're focusing once again on mechanical, right? Because that's what we need to think about whenever we're playing vibrato. It's a mechanical thing. But we do this all the time with other parts of our instrument, other parts of our playing. We're just doing the same thing here with our vibrato. But now if we play it, let's say in A, and we play it, I think, in my opinion, the right way. Right, I'm engaging my torso, I'm engaging my back, I'm engaging my shoulder, I'm engaging my arm, and I'm lengthening out, and I'm pulling back in. It's almost like I'm pulling the whole bow arm with my back. But that makes it so much more comfortable than staying stationary and doing this. Now that's awkward. I can feel it all through my tricep. So breaking that mechanical thing back into the idea of a vibrato, I want you to take a look at three locations. I'm going to say low, medium, and high. So let's play like high vibrato. So I'm on a D right now. On this vibrato, notice my elbow, right? Notice its location. Notice how I'm moving. Right? The vibrato isn't horrible, but I'm going to say something interesting here. If you take a look at my finger, you can kind of see it, right? See how much string is being covered there. My fingers are pretty big, so I cover quite a bit of the note with my fingers, a lot of padding there. So creating an oscillation here is really hard, especially if we're going to keep our hand structure. We generally play a little bit more, I feel like, not conservative, but you don't have as much freedom down here because you want to keep your wrist in a very, I say a locked position, but a finger position that's going to be usable to navigate down there. You don't want to break that position in favor of making a vibrato that's a little bit better sounding, or has a little bit more width to it. But then we end up collapsing our position and we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot. So that vibrato kind of, I feel like, stays within a window of how far we can actually move our wrist when we're down here in thumb position. Now, if we get to the midsection, I like this section a lot actually. The vibrato feels good. It feels organic, and notice my elbow is still kind of in the same place, regardless of where I'm at. It's a little bit higher past here. It's a little bit lower, right? But I'm still able to engage my vibrato at a nice level. Now here's the most awkward of them, and I'm playing kind of on the left side of my instrument, but now take a look at my elbow. It's kind of facing like all the way down now. Before, this is mid, this is high, right? So we kind of want this element here to be engaged back here, but let's play the vibrato and just hear how it sounds. It doesn't sound bad. I personally don't like playing vibrato down there, but you can, if you play along with me, you will notice actually that playing down there is back here is kind of awkward. It doesn't feel really good. This B flat feels phenomenal. This B flat doesn't. But that makes sense because, like, if we play it like this, our whole elbow is facing down now. We're kind of hanging on the instrument, but when we do that, we rock the whole instrument. Our wrist can move comfortably. That's not the problem. It's our actual, like, bicep is so engaged back here. So a lot of times, and this is where the idea of mechanical comes in. Before with the A, I was moving my whole body out with the string. Here, I'm actually going to take my B flat, and I'm actually going to engage my scapula, that little wing on the back of you. And I'm going to just push it back just a tad back and down. Now all of a sudden, instead of this, I can get this. And this shape is very similar to this shape. It's not that bad. right? Now that might seem trivial, but whenever you're trying to play quick passages or passages that require vibrato down there, if you keep it with the bicep, the danger, I feel like the danger is you clamp onto the instrument. And when we clamp onto the instrument, we end up with kind of an instrument that wants to rock, and it doesn't feel really good. So we might have to engage our back muscles during vibrato as well. So the mechanics of it are really important.